Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here are your supernatural hosts, Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasen. Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my co-host, Patricia Kirkman. Hi, Patricia.
Well, hello there, Miss Little Cold Bunny.
Yeah. Just call me the popsicle. I'm telling you
That's
what.
right. I just had to get off the patio a little bit ago because it was too warm in the sun.
Oh, do torture me. What's the temperature out there?
Well, it was in the low 80s this afternoon. I'm sorry.
Goodness me. Well,
it's okay. It's going to turn cool and it's going to start to rain. So I just had to put that little bit out there to make me feel better.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you did. But I got to tell you what goes on in New England. You know, we have a whole different reference for temperatures out here in New England. We're a hardy bunch. And I was out yesterday doing errands because it's one of the only days where we didn't have a snowstorm hanging over our heads. And I'm driving down the road, and what do I see but a convertible in front of me with two people in it and the top down. And it was all of 30 degrees. Only in New England will you see this. So,
well, they were being taken to their new home.
I don't know what they were doing, but I'll tell you what. I mean, this is how it is in New England. I see people in shorts, and it's 20 degrees. I'm like, oh, my God, what are they thinking? But this is, you know, we get acclimated, as we talked about before. This is what happens out here. You get used to it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Being raised in Illinois, I don't know if I ever got used to it. And then I lived in Maryland, and then I know I didn't get used to it.
And now you're in the desert, and you are enjoying nice warm temperatures. Okay, enough of that.
I know it. It's okay, folks. We all get our day in the sun, shall we say, one time or the other. Come August, I'll be whining because it'll be too hot here.
Oh, good. Well, I want to hear that whining. But first, I want to hear about what's coming up. You have an event happening this weekend.
That's right. We're having a psychic fair take place, and it's going to be at the Doubletree by Hilton on Alvernon Way in Tucson, Arizona. It's fabulous. We have a great array of people there, everything from little tidbits and jewelry to buy, little health elements to buy for the body. But we have Reiki, we have readers, we have everything. We have tarot, we have a little bit of everything.
We have mediums out there this time?
Yes, we do. We have a medium there. We have a gentleman is fabulous at reading gemstones, and he allows you to choose the one that you are drawn towards, and he'll give you all this information that goes with it. It's fascinating. And we've got a great astrologer that works with us. And Larry used to be write the article for astrology for People magazine.
Oh, my goodness. You've got some heavy hitters there. So now is there an entrance fee, or is it free to get in?
No, it's always free to get in. You just pay for whomever you decide you want to service with. And that's all. You can come and spend the day, just chit-chat, whatever. If you get a reading, great. If you don't and you just want to mingle, that's fine, too.
Isn't that wonderful? Well, I wish you all the best with that. It sounds like it is going to be a wonderful day. Just wonderful.
It always
so please,
is.
Everybody go out and check this out if you're in the Tucson area. What time does it open in the morning?
9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. Not stop all day. We're waiting for you.
All right. That's going to be fun. Now, how are you doing with your scalar energy this week?
Oh, I'll tell you what. I have noticed a bit of a shift in the body tone, shall we say. I don't quite feel as puffy in the midsection as I did.
That's nice.
So something's moving.
Something's moving and changing.
I'm visualizing this slim, trim body without having to put on one of those torture suits to pull it all in. It's happening with the scalar instead.
And for those people who don't know about this, we had a wonderful guest on a few weeks back, Tom Palladino, and his website is selfhealgo.com. He has taken scalar to the next level, and you can get $25 off of a month-long treatment. Just go to our website, which is supernaturalgirlz.com, and you will see the graphic in between the lovely pictures of Patricia Kirkman and myself, and right underneath that graphic, it'll say, click here for discounts. And this is for our audience members only and the subscribers to Supernatural Girlz newsletter. And if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, because we've got, again, some incredibly fascinating guests coming up, and you don't want to miss it. You really don't. We're going to be going back to book giveaways and all kinds of fun stuff, but you got to be signed up. So go to supernaturalgirlz.com, sign up there.
Got to play to win.
That's right. You got to know who you are so you can send you your prize. So
that's right. Well, I think this is the best part because there's so much available for everyone right now. It's almost like being a little kid in a candy store. You don't know which thing to go to first.
I know. I want them all. They're just, everything is so exciting. It's so great to see all of these things out and available. We don't have to be worried about getting burned at the stake anymore. It's a good thing.
For sure.
Tell us, Patricia, you've got some numerological information to pass on to us tonight. So where do you want to start? You've been doing a lot of looking into tomorrow and today and the month of February and all of those things.
Well, the fun part is the month of February is a 1 month. It's all about new beginnings. And by the way, retrograde ended today.
Yay!
So we'll have a shadow period until the 3rd of March, but the actual retrograde has finally ceased, thank you, God.
Praise the Lord.
And today's been a great day because it's been all about communications and creativity and all types of things of that nature. And it's been a feel-good. It's a good chitty-chat day. And you do want to go out and play a little bit more than usual on a day like this. And take advantage of it because tomorrow it's nose to the grindstone.
Back to
the 1 month is about it's about self, putting it out there, doing the work. 1 and 4 are both garnered by the sun, and tomorrow is a 4-day in a 1 month. So it's let's get going. We'll be moving things around and making things happen, but it's great because we'll get all that energy out there and get things clearing the deck, and then look out on Friday because it's a nice day to play and have fun.
All right. See? Friday, here we come. It's only Wednesday. We'll get there.
Slowly but surely we will get there.
All right. Oh, that's excellent.
And then remember, Friday is the 13th.
It is really?
Uh-huh.
Now, what's the significance of that?
Well, for a lot of people, they get very fearful, and they think there's all these crazy things that are going to take place, and oh, my goodness gracious. But if you really look at it, the fear of Friday the 13th is actually more psychological condition than anything else. 13 is really a combination of 2 superstitions rolled into one. Friday as an unlucky day, 13 as an unlucky number. When it comes from, nobody really seems to know where it originated, but the nice thing is it doesn't matter. It doesn't work. It's not a problem. It only becomes that because we allow it to be that.
So we don't have to be afraid of Friday the 13th. It's actually going to be a play day, so it's fun.
That's right. It's a 5-day. Major changes taking place. Have a blast. Have fun. It's really great.
Gosh, I can't wait.
Nice it is. Yeah.
Can't wait
and
for the 13th.
Since it is a lucky day, I'm going to go buy a lotto ticket.
Oh, yes.
There's that big thing going on out there called, what is it, roller derby? No, that's not the name of it.
Powerball.
Powerball, that's the one.
Powerball is tonight, actually, 450 million plus. So,
shall I tell them to send the check?
Yes, why don't you?
Okay.
To Supernatural Girlz, obviously.
We'll share it.
So now tell us, we have a wonderful guest tonight, as you know. Robert Waggoner is coming on in just a minute, and he is going to be talking to us about lucid dreaming, plain and simple. he's going to give us all the tips and techniques for insight, creativity, personal growth, how to do this, how to really make it happen. I can't wait. Now, you said something about the number 7 having to do with dreams.
Well, 7 is when we're involved with the number 7, we seem to get ourselves into this state where we don't. It's almost like trying to reach through a fog. There's a lot of things that are taking place. And 7 deals with not only our spiritual side, but our learning and teaching side. So anything to do with the 7 is always uplifting. But we always I shouldn't say always, the majority will have that tendency to be a little fearful of the unknown. But there is no boogeyman going with it. It's what we allow it to come across as. And if we just allow it to use our dreams for information, oh my goodness gracious, what we can come with.
I know. It's amazing what you can do with dreams. People have written symphonies in their dreams, and we're going to hear all about this. So, all right. Well, we are going to be bringing on the air in about a second here our exciting guest, Robert Waggoner. He is a psychologist and past president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and the co-editor of the online journal Lucid Dreaming Experience. He is a frequent speaker at national and international dream conferences and the author of another book, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, and the one we're going to be talking about tonight, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. If you have a question for Robert, you can call in at 646-478-0828, or you can just put it down in the chat room, and we will ask it for you. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we have an echo for some strange reason. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to hang up and call right back in, and we'll try this again. This happens sometimes, but just call right back in. So, Patricia, we had this happen a lot when Becky Andreasen was co-hosting. Remember that?
Yes.
Like every time we got on the phone, it was driving us nuts, and it would just echo and echo and echo. And then they finally figured out that there was something wrong with the line coming in near her place. But it's weird because when I was
today, so it's got to give us one more jab before it wraps it up, right?
Oh, is that what this is?
Probably so.
Okay. Let's try this again. Robert, hi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Patricia.
Oh, that's much better.
Wonderful.
Yay, the echo's gone. Okay.
Great.
Well, you've written a great book here, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. And it's wonderful because it's really the first book I've read that spells out what the techniques are that you can do. But I'm going to back this up a little bit. Tell us about you, because you're a lucid dreamer yourself.
You know, I am. I taught myself how to lucid dream, and that means become consciously aware in the dream state that I'm dreaming. So I taught myself how to do this when I was a junior in high school back in 1975. So this will be 40 years of lucid dreaming for me. The amazing thing is the scientific evidence that basically proved lucid dreaming exists didn't emerge until 1980. And so I had 5 lonely years there at the beginning where I just basically more or less taught myself how to become a better and better lucid dreamer, because it's quite a path once you get on the lucid dreaming trail.
It really is exciting stuff, and it creates a whole new dimension in your life. So you've been doing this since you were very young. This just happened naturally for you?
You know, it did. The very first time it happened, I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And so if you can imagine this, I was in my public library looking at the books when all of a sudden I saw Tyrannosaurus Rex, a dinosaur, walking through the book stacks. And being 10 or 11, it occurred to me, wait a second, those dinosaurs are extinct. this can't be. And then I thought, oh, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. And that's when I became lucidly aware for the first time. But I didn't know what fun you could do with lucid dreaming and what amazing things you could do as well. And so I told myself to wake up, and I did. But basically, that's how lucid dreaming happens. You see something strange, you see something impossible, and then it occurs to you, oh, this must be a dream.
Now, if we back this up even further, let's talk just a little bit about remembering your dreams, because a lot of people just don't remember. That's a problem, because then they can't make the next step into lucid dreaming. So what advice do you have?
Right. For a lot of us, we've just fallen out of the habit of remembering. We have busy lives, and we just have to focus on what we have to do. And so we just decide not to remember, because normally if you want to be good at dream recall, the first thing you have to think is when you get up or wake up spontaneously in the middle of the night is, what was I just dreaming? You have to capture it just after you wake up, because if you wait a few minutes, there's a good chance it's going to be gone. So I encourage everyone who wants to improve their dream recall, get into that habit of thinking, what was I just dreaming? Don't look at your cell phone. Don't see if anyone's texting you. Don't do any of that. Try to think, have I been dreaming? What was I just dreaming? And you should, after a while, be able to remember 2 or 3 or 4 dreams a night. Also, if you keep a dream journal right there by your bed, then you can make notes in the middle of the night, because at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to write out a long dream, but I will put down some notes, about just the main ideas. I was in China and went across the bridge, and this. I'll just put a few notes just so in the morning it'll jog my memory and the dream will come back to me.
Robert, I've had so many people say to me, I don't dream. I never dream. And I'm thinking, doesn't everybody dream?
Everyone does dream. So each night, most of us have at least 5 dreams, and they get progressively longer as the night goes on. The final dream cycle, the final rapid eye movement cycle, can be from 45 minutes to an hour long. So that last dream of the night can be quite an adventure. But I'll tell you what happens. Some people have a medical condition which may keep them from dreaming or having good dream recall. And so some people who might have sleep apnea or something like that, they're less likely to report good dream recall. But then there's some people who've had traumatic events happen in their life. I remember I was giving a talk in Colorado, and a young man told me that he hadn't remembered a dream in 10 years. And so I asked him how old he was, and he said he's 26. And so I asked him, what happened to you when you were 16? And he replied that, his parents had a horrible divorce when he was 16. And I told him, it may be the case that you have consciously or subconsciously told yourself not to remember dreams because you had a period of scary dreams. And I told him, if you want to remember your dreams, just tell yourself, your inner self tonight as you're going to sleep, that now you'll allow yourself to recall your dreams. And the next day I saw him, he was so excited, he was jumping up and down. He said he made that suggestion to his larger awareness, and as soon as he fell asleep, he said it was like a slideshow of dream images, like 10 years of dream images, just one after the other. And he was so excited that he hadn't lost the ability to dream. And so sometimes we have medical conditions that might inhibit, or we're taking some prescription that might inhibit, but sometimes on a conscious or subconscious level, we just tell ourselves we don't want to remember. And that's unfortunate, because dreams can give us so much interesting information and so much entertainment as well.
That's for sure. And I find, too, that some people are really lazy and they don't want to make the effort, and it does take a little bit of effort to grasp those dreams and, write down a few words to help you remember when you get up in the morning. But it is such a wealth of information about so many things that we're missing if we don't take that extra time and really pay attention.
Exactly, and oftentimes a I'll tell my friends that just regular dreams can give us previews of coming attractions, that things that might be headed into our life. And if we pay attention to our dreams, sometimes we can see and get some information in advance and profit because of it. So paying attention to dreams is a valuable thing, but lucid dreaming, becoming consciously aware in the dream state, that just doubles the fun.
Now, what's the difference, Robert, between lucid dreaming and an out-of-body experience?
Right. So again, a lucid dream, you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. So you see a dinosaur and think, wait, they're extinct, this must be a dream. You see your grandmother and you think, wait a second, she's been dead 10 years now. Oh, this must be a dream. So you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. Normally when you have an out-of-body experience, or what some people call astral projection, normally that occurs at that fuzzy junction. You're starting to fall asleep and you might start to hear humming or vibration around your body. You might hear this strong energetic sound around you or inside you, and then frequently you'll find yourself aware in your bedroom, but you're 6 feet above your bed or something like that. So in a lucid dream, it's a dream in which you become aware. And out of body, sometimes they happen when people are having heart attacks or they're having, car accidents and those kind of things. So it's a different branch on this incredible tree of awareness. It's on that same tree of awareness, but it's just a different branch and has its own characteristics.
Well, that's a great explanation of both. And so you have in your book, again, the name of it is Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. You've got a lot of tips, and we want to hear them. How do we do this?
Well, again, first you have to become good at dream recall, because you might have a lucid dream and not even recall it. So first you have to get good at dream recall. The way that I taught myself back in 1975, I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. And Castaneda was a UCLA graduate student who was studying psychoactive plants like peyote and that sort of thing. One
of my favorite authors.
He for a lot of us, he just wrote some incredible books. And he meets this shaman, Don Juan, and in this book, Journey to Ixtlan, Don Juan tells him, tonight in your dreams, I want you to find your hands and realize you're dreaming. And Carlos and he have this whole big conversation about it. There were hardly any techniques. So because I knew about the power of suggestion and hypnosis, I just made up my own technique. And this is what I did, Patricia. Each night before I'd go to sleep, I would just look at my hands while I sat there in bed, and I would just look at the palm of my hands while repeating over and over in my mind, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And I just did that over and over, kind of like a mantra, just over and over until I got sleepy 4 or 5 minutes later and turned off the lights and went to sleep. So 3 nights of doing this for about 5 minutes each night, and when I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I'd wonder, did I see my hands in my dreams? On the 3rd night, I'm walking through my high school hallway, and all of a sudden, just like they're spring-loaded, my hands pop right in front of my face, and I think, oh, my hands, this is a dream. At that moment, I realized I was dreaming.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
It's great because, as I recall from Carlos Castaneda's book, that he was a slow learner, and Don Juan used to make fun of him all the time about that. And it took him weeks to be able to see his hands in his dreams, and here you pulled it off in 3 days.
Oh, and I think part of it is kind of this technique that I developed. It's kind of like Pavlov and his dogs. So we all remember Pavlov. He would ring
the bell.
Yeah, he would feed his dogs and ring a bell at the same time. And then he showed just by ringing the bell, he could get the dogs to salivate, and so they called that a conditioned response. And so that's what I've kind of created here, is a technique where it's a conditioned response. As soon as you see your hands, your first thought has to be, oh, this is a dream. My hands, oh, this is a dream. And it's been great. I've heard people who have read my books tell me, like one woman told me that she was doing this each night and before she went to sleep, and one night her husband asked her, what are you doing? And so she explained the technique and how this was supposed to help you become lucidly aware. Well, anyway, in the middle of the night, he was having a dream, and all of a sudden his hands popped in front of his face, and he realized he was dreaming. And so within one night, he had his first lucid dream using this technique, and the woman was quite upset because it was taking her a little bit longer to become lucid. So,
Men a little competition going, huh?
Everybody will work it differently. Some people have just immediate success, and other people it takes a little persistence.
Now, I also have heard when people are not feeling physically well, they've been diagnosed with a chronic illness or something worse, and your dreaming life can kind of shut down, I guess. I don't know why. Tell us why. Is it because of the body trying to heal, and so all the energy is being used in that manner? But I've heard this a lot from people.
Have you now? Sometimes it might be medication. If you look on the side effects of many medications, it'll either suppress dreams or cause more powerful dreams on some side effects. Also, sometimes people who have chronic illnesses, their whole sleep cycle is just messed up because they have pain or they're being interrupted by nurses or they have machinery and all that kind of stuff. But whatever it is, most of us, should be able to remember a few dreams each night if we make it part of our intent.
Oh, that's good news. And so we can start with this first technique that you've just shared about telling ourselves we will see our hands on our dreams over and over again like a mantra. And that's easy. We can all do that and give that a try.
Yeah, the nice thing is it's something you do before sleep, so you don't have to think about it a lot in the middle of the night. And also it's something just like Pavlov saw with his dogs ringing the bell. A conditioned response gets stronger the more you do it. So the more you do it, the more you're building up that association between the stimulus, seeing your hands, and the response, oh, this is a dream. And once you become consciously aware of dreaming, you can have so much fun and just do incredible things.
So after the hand exercise and you see your hands in your dream, then what do you do?
In our book, Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple, we just bring it down to 4 simple steps that we want people to remember. Because when you become consciously aware of dreaming, it's kind of like being an astronaut in outer space. You're in a different realm. You're in the realm of the dream space. You're in that inner space of the dream, so you have to know how to respond. So what we tell people in the book, the first thing when you become consciously aware in the dream, modulate your emotions. Don't get too excited. So if you become lucidly aware because you saw Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, don't get too excited. It's a dream. They haven't come to visit. It's a dream. So tell yourself to calm down, look at your hands, look at the floor, look at something boring. Don't get too excited. Because what lucid dreamers have all discovered, and this is around the world, lucid dreamers have all commented, if they get way too excited, they'll pop out of the lucid dream. Then the next thing, I encourage people to enhance their awareness. So you're consciously aware in the lucid dream, but what you might want to do in the lucid dream is just rub your hands together. And that kind of activates that kind of kinesthetic physical sensation. Or you might just want to touch something and just kind of ground yourself. Also, some lucid dreamers shout out greater clarity now or more awareness now. And it's amazing. Sometimes when you shout that out, greater clarity now, it's like in the dream someone turns on the light brighter. The whole dream atmosphere brightens up. And finally, after reducing your emotion, modulating your emotion, enhancing your awareness, the third thing is maintaining your focus. Because now you're consciously aware in a dream. It's a dream, but still, because it's a dream, fascinating things can happen. People can walk by, you can see amazing things, but if you forget that you're dreaming, you'll be drawn back into the regular dream and you'll lose your lucid awareness. So you got to reduce your emotions, enhance your awareness, maintain that focus, and finally, once you've done all that, you're in a stable position where you can express your intent, whether it's to seek out your greatest creativity, to seek out your inner muse. By that point, you're ready to go. And that's what we try to teach in our book, Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple.
And It sounds easy, Robert, but
yeah, I was waiting for the next catch.
It does sound easy when you have it explained, but of course it's so much fun when it happens. And even for people who've just become lucidly aware for 20 or 30 seconds, some of them are just so excited that they had that experience that they realize within a dream, wait a second, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. My subconscious mind and I are creating all of this around me. And so even if it just happens once and a few times and you never really master it, I still think people will benefit just by virtue of having done it a few times.
I agree. I just think dreaming is so important in terms of making that commitment to remembering your dreams, doing these exercises, because it is empowering on a tremendous level, and that you can't get this any other way.
Exactly. And you'll learn a lot in the process, and also pay attention to your dreams, which can pay side benefits as well.
Yeah, there's just tremendous benefits. And we're living in a world today where people are feeling a bit overrun at times, very powerless, and having the ability to try exercises like this and commit to that inner awareness, that changes that feeling of powerlessness into powerfulness.
Oh, exactly. And often many people have used lucid dreaming to help where they feel most powerless, which is in nightmare situations. Mm-hmm. So some therapists have taught people who have recurring nightmares how to use lucid dreaming, how to become consciously aware within their dreams. And normally, when they become consciously aware in that nightmare scenario, normally after that, the nightmares basically cease. And so that's something just incredibly important, especially for people who suffer from recurring nightmares.
What do you think the purpose of nightmares is? What is that about?
You know how sometimes you're on a computer and you're at some website and you're filling out some form, and because you don't fill out the form exactly, you submit it, it'll always bounce it back and say, please fill out this. And then you submit it again. And if you don't fill out that one section, it'll keep bouncing it back. And that's what I think recurring nightmares are about. That's for some reason the psyche, the larger awareness, doesn't accept what our response is. Because normally our response in the nightmare is to run like a crazy person, screaming our heads off while this nightmarish figure is chasing us. But as soon as you become lucidly aware, that's the strange thing. As soon as you become consciously aware and think, wait a second, these monsters are chasing me again. Oh, this happens every night. Oh, this must be a dream. Once you turn and face them, and you can smile at them, you can ask them, why are you chasing me? What does this represent? You can do all those kind of things. But once you do this new response, then the nightmares cease. And so I think that our larger awareness is asking us, is trying to get us to a point of healing, even though it does, in many respects, feel very difficult. It's trying to get some situation resolved, trying to get some understanding to occur, and it's waiting for us to show the proper response.
Robert, do you feel that a person, say, that has an illness and they know that they have a limited amount of time, and that fear factor that they go through, the ability to dream, lucid dreaming, would give them a reinforcement to transition over, shall we say?
You know, it might. It's interesting. Oftentimes, people, when they wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes they'll see something in the corner, and especially when they're getting close to passing on, oftentimes they'll report kind of visitation experiences where they might see a deceased family member or sometimes an angelic figure or something like that. So it's interesting how those experiences often occur when we get close to that period of getting ready to transition over.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Patricia.
The ability to deal more with the lucid dreams, I went through this with my mother when she was passing. And I found it fascinating from the standpoint because it took away the first time or two she was fearful, but then it gave a peace and a comfort to her. She wasn't fearful of going to sleep or dreaming. It was more pleasant. And that's why I was wondering if this is the norm or if everyone goes through something like that, or is it just the exception?
I think everyone's going to respond a little bit differently, but I do have a interesting lucid dream for you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
But I don't know when this was, 6 or 7 years ago, my mother-in-law was beginning to get to a position where she's just getting older and needed to move to an assisted care facility. And then when she was there, she started to have some problems, and so she lived about 8 hours away from where my wife and I live. One night, I'm in a dream, and I hear someone calling my name. And they're calling my name in a very plaintive way, just, Robert, Robert. And so I start walking around the dream until I come to a house, and I can tell the voice is coming from the basement, and it's my mother-in-law, Nona. And at that moment, I become lucidly aware because I think, what is my mother-in-law doing in a basement yelling my name? This must be a dream. And so at that moment, I think, okay, I'm going to go investigate this because I've made it a habit in lucid dreams always to go to the area of the most energy, the most emotion, because if there's something there, I want to resolve it or assist it or learn about it. So I go into the house, and now I can tell it's in the basement, and of course the basement is very dark. And so I'm going down these dark stairs, even though I know I'm lucidly aware, I know this is a dream, and when I get to the bottom of the stairs, it's like there's this figure made of dark light or dark energy comes from the left to kind of try and get me. But I realize by this point that this is just the collected energy, the collected fears of my mother-in-law. And so because I'm consciously aware, I just put up my hand and say, don't bother bothering me. And at that point, I wake up. So when I woke up, I talked to my wife, and I asked her, maybe she and her 2 sisters should go and meet her mother and see if her mom has fears and unexpressed concerns and all, and get this worked out while she still has, some of her faculties still with her. And within the month, they all met, and my wife said it was the most healing moment in their family, that their mom just brought up all of her fears and concerns, and she also asked for forgiveness for things that she felt like she hadn't done well, and all that kind of thing. And my wife just came back and said it was the most incredible moment that she'd ever experienced in her family. But what was equally fascinating is my wife and I were there the final weekend of her mother's life when she was being moved from the assisted care to the nursing care because her problems had just increased. And it was so interesting. When my wife and I were getting ready to go, we told her mom it was time for us to go. And here was her mom, who I think was 86 or 87, all of a sudden, just like a little girl, sat up in bed. And previously, when you'd put her into bed, she would scream in pain because she had so much back pain. But all of a sudden, she sits up like a little girl and gives both of us a kiss. And I notice when she gives me a kiss that light is coming out of her face.
Oh,
and I thought, whoa, this is weird.
How marvelous.
And so I walked out to the hallway, and then my wife walked out, and I asked her, did you see what I just saw? I didn't want to lead my wife on and tell her what I'd seen, because sometimes I'll see things that others don't. And my wife looks at me and says, do you mean the light coming out of her face?
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, darn right, light was coming out of her face. And 3 or 4 hours later, we got the phone call as we were driving home that she had passed over. But oftentimes I think lucid dreaming can help us understand when people are in trouble. And sometimes it also kind of gives us that beauty and certainty about death, because oftentimes you become lucidly aware when you see the deceased. All of a sudden you realize, wait a second, this can't be. This person has passed over. But even then, just because they're a deceased dream figure, you still don't know, is this a deceased dream figure who's a symbol, a projection of myself, or is this a deceased dream figure who's a spiritual being who's there, with something to say to me. But the nice thing is when you become lucid, then you can have a conversation and find out.
That's fabulous.
It is. What a beautiful experience for you and your wife.
Oh, it really was beautiful. But I also would say that for many people who get involved in lucid dreams, because it's been scientifically validated and all, they don't realize as they get deeper into it, when your deceased relatives come and see you and you become consciously aware of dreaming and then have a conversation, and sometimes in these conversations they'll pass on information that you're not aware of. And then later when you wake up and you can verify this information that was unknown, for a lot of people who have grown up in kind of a secular scientific culture, that shakes their core philosophy. That makes them realize there's something more to this world than just this outer skin. There's something more going on here. And so I've met tons of lucid dreamers who've just utterly been blown away by these kind of experiences.
Gosh,
fabulous.
It is. I love this stuff. It's just as I mentioned before, it's one of my favorite topics. And we're just going to take a short break here, Robert, and all of our listeners, stay tuned. If you've got a question for Robert, the phone number to call is 646-478-0828, and we will be talking to you after the show about all this, or you can write your question in the chat room. We'll ask it for you. So stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With Cosmic Fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Bonjour, this is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the Organic Wine movement, since 1980, I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Welcome back, everyone. We are having a wonderful and helpful discussion tonight with author and psychologist Robert Waggoner, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. And I love these tips that you're offering, but I also want to get to some of these other facts in your book that are so interesting, Robert. Germans, they are at the top of the list for lucid dreaming. What's up with that?
There was a study published in the International Journal of Dream Research about the incidence of lucid dreaming in college-age students. And so they'd ask psychology students, have you ever become consciously aware of dreaming while in the dream state? And so here in the USA, 71% of the students sample said yes, they had, and about 20% or so said that they became lucidly aware at least once a month, that it just happened to them naturally. But I think in Germany, I think it was 82% of the students said that yes, they had a lucid dream at least once in their lifetime. And so I think it varies by country. Some cultures just have a deeper interest and fascination with this.
I just found that a very interesting table of facts.
They're very detailed, we know that.
Oh, gosh, yes. And then you also talk about in your book, which is equally fascinating, all of these very talented people who actually received information from their dreams. For example, Paul McCartney. That's a really interesting fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Paul McCartney claims that the music for the just number one hit, Yesterday, came to him in a dream. And he said he jumped out of bed and he ran over to the piano and started playing out the music that he had heard. And then in the waking life, he would ask his friends, where did this music come from? And he'd play this music of Yesterday to him, and they told him, you've dreamt it up. It's not some other person's music, it's yours. And they asked him, what's the words to it? And instead of, he hadn't figured out the words yet, but at the time as a joke he'd say, scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love your legs. And instead of yesterday, all my troubles were so far away. But anyway, he went on to write some wonderful lyrics, and it's one of the world's most favorite songs.
And it came from a dream.
It came from a dream. And also I was really surprised when I was listening and learned that one of the co-founders of Google, Larry Page, he told the 2013 graduating commencement ceremony at the University of Michigan, where he had gotten his doctorate in, I believe, computer science or something like that. He said that in many ways, Google, the idea for it, came from a dream that he had when he was living there as a doctoral student. He said in the middle of the night, he jumped up out of bed and for the next 3 or 4 hours wrote down this idea that was basically how to create a search engine like Google. And so he encouraged them to follow their dreams and, if nothing else, pay attention to their dreams.
That's incredible. I mean, you think about the technology involved with something like that. And then there's other people that you talk about as well in the book about the periodic table of elements that Dmitri Mendeleev came up with from a dream.
Right. They were trying to figure out, how can you show the chemical compounds in some sort of table that makes sense. And he said one night he dreamt it. He dreamt the periodic table of elements. And what was fascinating, he said that when he woke up and wrote it all down, that later he only had to make a couple of little changes. And the periodic table of elements is, it's a giant poster in most science classrooms in high school and college. So it's amazing the kind of creativity that we just often find in normal dreams. And one of the beautiful things is in the lucid dream, when we're consciously aware, then we can actually seek out that kind of creativity.
Now, when you do lucid dreaming, and you've been a long-time lucid dreamer, do you ever find yourself in the same place, or is it always somewhere different?
Boy, that's a good question. I think normally the dream scenarios are normally different, and so I would have to say that basically each time I become lucidly aware, it's in its own unique dream space.
Have you ever had a lucid dream that predicts the future?
That's a fascinating thing, because part of my interest in dreaming stemmed from having basically precognitive dreams as a child, and there's kind of a helpful thing that happened in my dream life. So imagine you're having a dream, and then you look up and you see an old-fashioned clock with the hands moving. And whenever it was a precognitive dream, I would see that symbol and the hands would be moving wildly forward, as if to tell me that we're showing you something that's forward in time. And so every time I saw that symbol of the clock with the hands moving, I always knew to pay attention to that dream, because it was likely had precognitive information. But in my book, I bring out some lucid dreamers who in their lucid dreams, they sought out future information. And oftentimes you have to wait a year or two to see if that future information comes in to be. But it's been surprising how often that it turns out to be the case. Like, for example, one interesting source of precognitive information sometimes are deceased dream figures. And in my first book, I mentioned the story of 3 years after my father passed away. One night I have a dream and I see a ladder, and down the ladder comes my dad. And the first thing I started to do was laugh, because he had such a bad haircut. And I thought, this poor guy cannot even get a good haircut in the after-death state. By this time I realized this is a dream. But then I wondered, is this my father as a spiritual being, or is this just a dream symbol, a projection? And so being a rational guy, I decided to check that out. So after we greeted each other, I asked my dad, I said, "So Dad, you're from the land of the dead. When do you think Mom will pass away?" And my father looked at me and he said, "Oh, probably in 2 to 6 years." And so I asked, "Of what?" And he said, a heart condition, which really surprised me, because my mom had never had any heart trouble. And then I asked him a couple other questions, and he responded, but then he told me to be quiet because he came to tell me things. And so we had a conversation, lucidly aware, in this dream. Anyway, I woke up, and 23 months later, almost 2 years later exactly, my mom went to the hospital and almost passed away of a heart condition.
Oh my
goodness.
Then
about 3 years after that, because my father said she'd probably pass away in 2 to 6 years of a heart condition, a few years after that, she had been taking a prescription drug that was harming people's hearts, and she almost passed away again of a heart condition. But she made it through both of those instances and continues to live today. So what I'm saying is, how do you explain how you get unknown information that's later validated? And also, could you do this scientifically? Could you bring lucid dreamers into the sleep lab or whatever and pose a test to them? When you become consciously aware in a dream, we want you to seek out this event from the future and then wake up with it and give it to the scientist, and then we'll all wait a month or however long it takes to see if that turns out to be the case. You could see how you could use this in a scientific setting, because that's why psychologists and scientists don't like precognitive dream reports. Oftentimes the event will happen, whether it's 911 or whatever it is, and then someone will point to their dream journal and say, "Oh, 2 years ago I dreamt about this exactly." And the scientists don't like that because it's retrocognitive, it's after the fact. But in a lucid dream, you can, in that state of dreaming where the rules of time and space are different, you could seek it out and hopefully wake up with it, and you and the scientist could both wait to see if it turns out to be correct. So I think there's kind of a scientific uses for lucid dreaming to explore some of these basic questions about the nature of reality, the nature of time and space.
Yeah, and to predict what's coming next. I mean, that is important. But what intrigues me about what you do is the way you can actually have a conversation with the entities or people or whatever they are in your dreams. You have an actual chat with them.
You know, and that's one of the fascinating things about lucid dreaming, and especially something that's very heartwarming for people who have lost deceased loved ones. When you become consciously aware and begin to interact, it's very much like the conversation that you and I are having right now. It's very straightforward and very connected, and so that's one of the beautiful things. But in this book, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, I bring up how you can also engage your larger awareness. And this is something that happened to me in 1985 after 10 years of lucid dreaming. I was part of a group that each month we had a goal to achieve in a lucid dream, and 1 month the goal was find out what your dream figures represent in your lucid dream. And so I became lucidly aware. I followed someone into an office. There were 4 people in the office, and I looked around lucidly aware, and I went up to a gentleman who was kind of wearing a 3-piece suit, kind of a very avuncular kind of guy. And I just asked him, "Excuse me, what do you represent?" And all of a sudden, the strangest thing happened, Patricia. A voice boomed out an answer from out of the sky. So instead of the dream figure talking to me, this voice boomed out an answer. It was basically part of an answer, so I had to ask for the more complete answer, and then it boomed out the complete answer. But after that, it occurred to me, there's something wrong happened here, something unusual happened here. Maybe there's an awareness behind the dream, a non-visible awareness. And so that's what I started to do in my lucid dreams after that. I would ignore the dream figures, ignore the setting, and I would just shout out questions and request to this non-visible awareness behind the dream. Like, show me something important for me to see. And all of a sudden, the entire lucid dream would change. And so part of my books, my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, is about exploring that deeply. But also in this book, Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple, I bring it up so that people can learn how to use it, how you can engage your larger awareness and ask questions of it. And sometimes it's funny, the larger awareness that's non-visible will reply that the question doesn't make sense, or will tell you that you're not ready for the answer yet. And so it's quite fascinating that you can also have this conversation with this other layer of awareness, which might, to some degree, be your larger self.
That is so interesting. And, you know, it's some of these dreams, though, that people have, lucid or not, they're like local traffic. They're kind of a review of your day, or, you know, it's nothing really all that interesting. How do you help people get past that?
Yeah, you know, well, when you talk with lucid dreamers, most of them just use lucid dreaming to have fun. You can fly around, you can walk through walls, you can talk to dream figures, you can do pretty much whatever you put your mind to. And so that's why in this book, Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple, I try to encourage people to think about it more broadly. Could you, in a lucid dream, promote emotional health or emotional healing? And then I give examples of where people have used it to overcome phobias and overcome anxiety.
Can you give us an example of that? Anxiety especially, because a lot of our listeners write in about that very issue. It's a time of great anxiety, and Patricia, you and I have talked about this before. A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. So how can you use this to help that issue?
So like here's an example of fear. A woman wrote me, said she had a fear of flying, but she wanted to come to a dream conference being held by the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And so she asked me, did I think lucid dreaming could help her overcome her fear of flying? And I said, well, maybe it could. And so what I suggested to her, every time she become lucidly aware from then on, that she'd try to go to an airport in her lucid dream. And she would know it was a lucid dream airport. She'd know that this was basically a manufactured inside of her dreaming mind. And then I told her if she felt comfortable being in the airport, then I wanted her to get on a lucid dream airplane and see how she feels. And then if she felt comfortable sitting there in the lucid dream airplane, because I'll tell you, in a lucid dream, the carpet feels like real carpet, the chair feels like a real chair, your arm feels like a real arm. It's amazing how similar it is to waking reality, and I think that's why we often don't become lucidly aware, because it is so similar to waking reality. But anyway, this woman told me that she did this 5 times in her lucid dreams, and she even got to the point where she could let the lucid dream airplane take off and go flying. And so after the 5th time, she wrote me and she said, I think I'm over my fear of flying. I've bought a ticket to come to the dream conference, and I even bought a window seat because I want to see if it's like the experience I had in the lucid dream. And she came to the dream conference, had no problem flying and any of that. But this same woman, she asked me later, do I think lucid dreaming could help with her generalized anxiety? And I didn't realize it, but she had had kind of this sense of anxiety for a long time. And I told her that I really didn't have any thoughts about it, but she could always try if she herself wanted to. And so I suggested to her that the next time she become lucidly aware, just stop whatever she was doing in the lucid dream and shout out to this larger awareness behind the dream, I want to be free of anxiety for 1 week. Just shout it out. I want to be free of anxiety for 1 week. This woman told me that she did that in a lucid dream. She shouted that out. And she said in the morning, she wrote me an email. She told me she felt like a little girl. And I wrote her back and I said, what do you mean you felt like a little girl? She said that was the last time she was free of anxiety, was when she was a little girl.
Oh,
and that's why she felt like a little girl. She had been dealing with anxiety for about 20 years. Now, here's the funny thing. A month or 2 later, she had her regularly scheduled appointment with her psychiatrist, and as soon as she walked in the door, the psychiatrist jumped up and said, "What's happened to you?" And she asked why, and he said it was obvious that she didn't have her normal anxiety. What had happened to it? And she told him that in lucid dreams, she had basically encouraged it to go away. And he put her on the lowest level of medication, and now she no longer takes any medication for anxiety. So what I'm trying to bring out is that in this virtual reality of the dream, not only could you stop recurring nightmares if you became lucidly aware, but you could also work on some of these other issues like fear of public speaking, fear of heights, fear of whatever. And I believe you could also work on some of these other issues like anxiety. There's a wonderful story that a friend of mine who's a lucid dreaming teacher in London told me. He said one of the guys who'd come to his workshop reported a lucid dream, and so he's lucidly aware, and he noticed that there was this strange dream figure. And so he went up to talk to the strange dream figure, and this dream figure said, "We represent your brain, and we've come here to ask you to quit smoking." And the lucid dreamer said, "What?" And kind of started to laugh, like you. And they say, "No, we really want you to quit smoking." And so the lucid dreamer said to this dream figure representation of his brain, he said, "Well, look, every time I've tried to quit smoking, I always have cravings." And the dream figure shook its head. And then the lucid dreamer said, "But look, if you could stop the cravings, then I'll try to quit smoking." And the dream figure
nice
said, said, "Okay, you got a deal. We'll see what we can do." And the guy said he woke up, he had no cravings, and he stopped smoking right then. He said he could hang out with other smokers and have no cravings. Mm-hmm. That he totally ceased his interest in cigarettes. And I talked to my friend Charlie Morley in London, who's also an author on lucid dreaming, and asked him about this. And he said, oh, yeah, he talked to the guy 9 months later, and the guy had no interest in cigarettes and had totally given it up. So think of that. You're consciously aware in your subconscious mind in the dreaming state, and you interact with some portion of yourself and make a deal, for your better health. How cool is that?
That is so powerful. Isn't that great, Patricia?
Yeah.
I love this.
Oh, it's just you feel so drawn in to so much taking place that we had no thought of until you put it right in front of us.
And that's the interesting thing. Yeah, so many of us lucid dreamers, look at that study. 71% of college students have had a lucid dream. 20% of that are having one lucid dream a month. But I'll tell you what they're probably doing if they were like me in my first 10 years of lucid dreaming. I flew around. I had fun. I just did whatever popped into my mind. It never occurred to me that you could use lucid dreaming for emotional healing, to access inner creativity, to even help with physical healing, it appears. And so all of this, is speculative because it hasn't been scientifically researched, and it's unfortunate that there's not more research going on in lucid dreaming, but all of it could be scientifically validated. So I look forward to that day when the lucid dream researchers start to dig into this more deeply, because there's a lot of amazing stuff that lucid dreamers are just learning by doing.
I love it. It's the answers are within, and here you have written a book that helps people to use these easy tips to get into this lucid dreaming state. And really, you can stop smoking from this. You can stop anxiety with this. It's amazing. Here's something that doesn't cost anything. It's just putting your attention on it.
By learning how to focus our intent and how to use our intent properly, when we learn how to stabilize the lucid dream, once you get to that level, the number of things that you can do are utterly profound, and that's why I think there's so much fascination, especially in young people, with this idea of lucid dreaming.
I'm glad to hear that you're finding young people are interested in this, because they need it.
Oh, God, yes.
It's interesting when I go home for Christmas and meet my extended family. I don't ask my nieces and nephews what's happening in their life, because they give me kind of one-syllable answers. But I will ask them, have you had an interesting dream lately? Because if they tell me an interesting dream that they recall, then I have much greater insight into what's going on in their life. But some of my nieces and nephews, and people should do this as well, ask your nieces and nephews, ask your kids and grandkids, have you ever had a lucid dream? And all of a sudden, you'll probably have one of the most incredible conversations ever, because this is happening in the young people. And oftentimes, I'll get magazines and all, and people are talking about this great shift in consciousness that's going to occur. And so often they'll point to something, it's going to occur because of this or that. I think possibly the great shift in consciousness that's going to occur is going to be a function of lucid dreaming. It's very popular in the young. It's very common in the young. And the more they realize how you can access inner creativity, how you can communicate with this larger awareness, I think that's where the shift will come from.
I hope so, because we need the shift. And now I know a lot has been talked about with the Sonoy tribe and how they had no violence until certain people from other cultures came there. And it just seems like sharing your dreams, as you have just mentioned, it does bring you closer. It does create more of a feeling of community.
Right, and also it gives you insights that you normally wouldn't have. And so, like I remember talking to my niece one Christmas, and I asked her if she had ever had a lucid dream. And she said, oh, yeah, I've had about 15 or 20, but they don't mean anything. And I go, what do you mean they don't mean anything? And she told me, when I become lucidly aware, like say if I'm in a bad part of town, I'll bring in some flowers and I'll paint up the buildings in nicer colors. And I thought, wow, this woman's a lucid dream decorator, my niece there. And so I told her, I go, look, if you want to find out if lucid dreams mean something, then this is what I want you to do. The next time you become lucidly aware, just shout out, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And so about a month later, I get an email from her. I guess she called me up on the phone, and she told me that the night before, she'd become lucidly aware when a lion was chasing her in Kansas City, and she hid behind a rock, and all of a sudden the lion was jumping over the rock, and she thought, wait a second, lions don't run free in Kansas City. This must be a dream. So she became lucidly aware. She stopped what she was doing, and she shouted out, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And she said when she did that, all of a sudden this long blue hallway appeared, and at the end of it was a white-haired lady. And so she walks down there, and who does she see? She sees her great-grandmother who passed away when she was like 5 years old. And her great-grandmother greets her and tells her she has such great timing. And she asks, well, why do you say I have great timing? And the great-grandmother goes, I get out of purgatory tomorrow. And my niece was so kind of unchurched that she had to ask me, what's this purgatory thing that she was talking about? So anyway, they have a conversation, and at the end of it, the great-grandmother, who's been deceased, 15 years by that point, tells her, I want you to tell your mother to remember the back room in my house. And my niece says, what? And the great-grandmother says, just tell your mom to remember the back room in Grandma's house. And so they say goodbye, and my niece wakes up, and then she calls me on the phone and says, what do I do with this? And I told her, look, you're the one who said that lucid dreams have no meaning. Mm-hmm. If you want to find out if it has meaning, you call up your mom and ask her what's up with the back room in Great-Grandma's house.
Yeah, what was up with that?
She called up her mom, and her mom burst into tears. Her mom said the happiest moments in her childhood occurred in the back room of Great-Grandma's house, because every Saturday the great-grandma would have the nieces and nephews and grandkids come over, and they all got to dress up as kings and queens and princesses, and there were no rules in the back room of Great-Grandma's house. They could be whatever they wanted to be. There were no rules, no one to constrain anyone. And so, again, this is something my niece was totally unaware of. She asked the lucid dream, show me something important for me to see. And for her, that this issue of what happens when you pass away was very important. So you can see how a larger awareness responds, and it's utterly fascinating what happens when people start to make these kind of requests to that awareness behind the dream.
That's fabulous, just fabulous.
It is, and it does sound like that larger intelligence wants to communicate, so you get your answer.
Exactly. And what's beautiful is you can even do this with concepts. So I was giving some talks in London, England, where lucid dreaming is just really hot. And so I encourage the crowd, I go, look, if you want to play around with this, the next time you become lucidly aware, shout out, hey, let me experience unconditional love. Ooh. And then see what happens. And I came back about 6 months later to give a talk, and this one woman was there, and she said she did that in a lucid dream. She became lucidly aware. She knew she was dreaming. She ignored all the dream figures. She shouted out, hey, let me experience unconditional love. She said that the resulting experience was so powerful that she cried tears of joy for 15 minutes after she woke up. She said it was so utterly profound. She was like ecstatic about having this experience of unconditional love, what it had meant to her. And so that's how amazing it can be. Also, if you have a moment, I know I'm kind of going on here, but I went down to Bogota, Colombia. I got invited down there by some people, and they had about 50 or 60 people at a lucid dreaming workshop that I did. And and it was all being translated in Spanish and all. But I noticed that there's this one woman in the front row who asked excellent questions, so I knew she was a good lucid dreamer. But she was also one of these people who had etched in her face just a lot of pain. I mean, even though she's probably just 40 years old, you can tell when someone has had a painful life because you can just see it in their face.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they invited me back about 6 months after my first workshop, and in walked this woman, and now she looked transformed. It's like 70 or 80% of the pain was gone from her face. She looked younger. She looked just so much happier. And I asked her, what happened to you? And she said, and this was being interpreted, she said, I had never thought of the idea of emotional healing in a lucid dream until your first workshop. And so in a lucid dream, I became lucidly aware. I remembered my goal that I wanted to be emotionally healed. And so she said, so I called out for the Virgin Mary to come and heal my heart. And she said, all of a sudden, a woman in a blue cloak appears, and she puts out her hands, and light came from her hands into the lucid dreamer's heart. And she said she had this incredible experience, and when she woke up, she felt utterly transformed. And so she asked me, she goes, do you think that was really the Virgin Mary or not? And I said, it's not for me to say. I mean, for other people, they might ask for, is it Guan Yin, the Chinese figure of compassion, or the Buddhist figure of compassion? Someone else might ask for some other, the Dalai Lama or whatever figure of compassion. It was just that, she had opened up a condition where she was ready for a compassionate healing. And I'll tell you, I was just so happy that she had taken this idea and had done this for herself, because she was a truly transformed person.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, and to be able to use these tips and techniques that you've written about in your book, and starting out with the hands, starting out with remembering your dreams, and then moving into the hand technique, and then, as you mentioned, modulating your emotions, and the other, I believe there were 4 more that you have to kind of master to continue the lucid dream. I mean, anything is possible in that state, anything.
Well, if you become talented at it and understand the basic principles, and that's why I wrote the book. In the book, besides my finding your hands in the lucid dream, there's probably a dozen other techniques, because some people would have more success with other techniques. But I kind of just, it's not enough to throw somebody into the swimming pool and ask them to start swimming. I explain to them, when you become lucid, you have to do these things immediately, but then I explain to them how it's not about controlling the dream experience. It's totally not about that. It's really about relating to the dream, relating to the other dream figures, relating to the environment, relating, to all of your projected stuff. And that's how incredibly deep all of this can be. But if you become an experienced lucid dreamer, it's shocking the kind of things that you can experiment, and very rationally experiment with as well. So that's why I wrote a book. I mean, that's why I wrote a second book. My first book, Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self, is for advanced lucid dreamers. Lucid Dreaming, plain and simple, is for people who are beginners or intermediate lucid dreamers who want to understand all this better.
Well, this is a great book to start with for the new people out there. Now, I do have a couple questions for you from the chat room. One of them is, did you ever encounter anything in a lucid dream that really scared you?
Yes. There's a wonderful idea that Carl Jung came up with called the shadow. And so oftentimes the shadow is in a shadow's position. It's behind us. It's the thing that scares us. And so for Carl Jung, he said, basically these were the denied, ignored, repressed aspects of ourself that we were refusing to face. And so you do, on occasion, meet your shadow. But Carl Jung said the idea was to integrate and learn from the shadow and come to heal that. So here's an example. Before I wrote my first book, I was having a dream that I was living down south in an old farmhouse, sitting at a kitchen table with my oldest brother and someone behind me. And when the farm wife put beans on my plate, I thought, wait a second, I don't live in the South. I'm not having beans for dinner. This doesn't make sense. And I became lucidly aware. So at that moment, I knew someone was behind me, and I knew, the shadow is normally what's behind you. I turned around, and it was this very attractive black woman. I picked her up. She didn't weigh anything, and I put her right in front of me, and I looked her dead in the eye, and I said, "Who are you? Who are you?" And she replied, "I am a discarded aspect of yourself." And I thought, what do you do with a discarded aspect of yourself? How do you respond to that? And then I realized, well, if it's discarded, it wants to be accepted. Totally accepted. So from my heart, I utterly and completely accepted it. And that's when something fascinating happened. All of a sudden, as I completely and utterly accepted it, it shrank down, this figure shrank down into wisp of colored light that then came into my torso and gave me a jolt, and I woke up. And I realized I was different when I woke up, that I had reintegrated with some energy that was inside my psyche. About a week later,
was it like an electric jolt?
Yeah, it was almost kind of like an electric jolt, of having this energy kind of enter me again. And so a week later, I realized all that week I'd been thinking about writing a book on lucid dreaming, but this was a project I had discarded 2 or 3 years earlier because the topic was just so complex. I couldn't get past 50 pages. And so all of a sudden I started writing my first book. So that kind of is like reintegrating with that discarded energy gave me the power to write my first book. But in the book, I point out that if you become lucidly aware, like I have, and so I become lucidly aware, and here's a black, angry Rottweiler snarling at me. So in the lucid dream, what I've realized is to do this. If you can meet anger with compassion, so I would begin to project love and compassion onto this black, angry Rottweiler, and all of a sudden it would shrink down to a little dachshund wiener dog like we had when I was a kid, and I'd take it and go flying around. But you see that your thoughts, if I responded in fear, the dog would have just got bigger and meaner. But when you lucidly aware, to respond with love and compassion, you can change the whole situation around. But it's always best, that's why I have a general rule, I always go to the area of the most energy, whether it's constructive or destructive or positive or negative. I go to the most energy because I want to see what's going on. If something unfortunate is going on, I want to make it better. I want to understand what's going on in my psyche. And that's how I hope people will use lucid dreaming, because Carl Jung said, you can just never get away from the shadow. It's much better to face it and integrate it than it is to always run from it.
I so agree with everything you're saying, and certainly it makes sense. We need to integrate these parts of ourselves that have been abandoned or left behind at different stages of our lives. And lucid dreaming, from my experience also, it gives you an opportunity to talk with energies and entities that you wouldn't normally encounter in your waking life. So
exactly.
It's important to be able to have these experiences and be conscious so that you can, not like you said, you're saying don't direct it, but just have this communication, have this experience with it.
Right. It's all about a relationship. And that's what, for a lot of lucid dreamers, they think they're controlling it. But I'll tell you what, when you go up to a dream figure and say, do you know I'm dreaming you? And the dream figure replies, how do you know I'm not dreaming you? That's
wow.
when you realize that you're in a relationship. You're not controlling anything. You're in a relationship. And so that's why I wrote this book, to help people relate better to their dream experience.
Now, how do we know? Because this is an issue that's been discussed quite a bit, I know, with the dream experts like yourself. How do we know it's not real? What we call real. This could be just as real, these lucid dreams and places we go in them can be just as real as waking reality, yes?
Well, it might have to do with quantum physics. It was interesting that Wolfgang Pauli, who is kind of the father of modern physics, got involved with Carl Jung later on in his life, and so it might be that dreams represent some sort of hidden order, and in lucid dreams we can begin to explore that, so like in some sort of inner dimension. But in my first book, I have a chapter on mutual lucid dreams, where you try to seek out and engage another lucid dreamer or another dreamer, and it's really fascinating what can happen in that kind of situation.
Now, I did hear a story, and I've shared this on the air before, but I love this story about Carlos Castaneda. And I don't know if you heard this one, but he was working with one of the institutes out on the West Coast, and they had told, I think it was like 12 to 15 people, if anything unusual happens in your dreams, please call the institute in the morning. And obviously these were experienced dreamers who could recall their dreams fairly easily. And one morning they all called the institute and said, Carlos Castaneda walked into my dream last night, shook my hand and said, hi, I'm Carlos Castaneda. Make sure you call the institute in the morning. That's a pretty powerful dreamer right there. That's something that he accomplished quite well.
In my first book, I have a funny story of a lucid dream I had. I was in a restaurant, lucidly aware, and in through the door walks my good friend, Mo Monroe, and her name is Maureen, but everyone calls her Mo. And I ran up to her and I go, Mo, this is a lucid dream. But what was interesting, her eyes were moving around like she was having rapid eye movement, but she wasn't focused in my dream. So imagine kind of a person whose eyes are kind of shifting around, and she looked like she was, like a drunk sailor or something, like she couldn't focus. And so then I thought, I'll levitate with her, and that'll prove to her that we're in a lucid dream. So I start levitating with her, and I go, see, we're floating. This is a lucid dream. And still she had that look in her face. Then finally I got so upset I didn't know what to do, so I put my fingers into a peace sign, and I just shoved it in front of her face, and I said, you see this peace sign? You can use it as a symbol to become lucidly aware anytime you want. And then I woke up. So the next day, I thought she'd give me a call or send me an email. She lives out in California, and I'm here in the Midwest, but there wasn't anything. Anyway, a few months later, I'm out in California on a business trip, and I have some free time, and I give her a call and see if she'd like to get together for lunch. So now it's waking reality. I'm standing on a sidewalk in Burlingame, California. Here comes Mo walking down the sidewalk. She walks right up to me, and she shoves a peace sign right in my face.
Oh, my goodness.
And I asked her, I said, Mo, why are you doing that? And she said, I don't really know. I just felt like it. And so it makes you wonder, did in the lucid dream, did I lucidly aware communicate with her subconscious mind, but because she wasn't lucidly aware, she just picked it up as an impulse or something to do. But it does show you how fascinating this area is, and how much fun you can have with it too.
And how you can influence other people through lucid dreaming. That's really what you're talking about.
Oh, it's a curious thing. So anyway, but you can have so much fun with this, and also transform and grow and learn yourself.
That's the most important thing, is to use this as a point of transformation. I almost said transportation, but it's kind of the same thing, because you are going somewhere in that lucid dream.
It's an incredible, beautiful path. And also I think it's kind of a bridge between science and spirituality, because lucid dreaming has been scientifically validated since 1980 in the work of Stephen LaBerge in America and Keith Hearn in England. And so it's scientifically validated, but it also has this ancient history as a spiritual technique in Buddhism and Sufism and Hinduism and some shamanic practices. So this is, I feel, really a bridge between science and spirituality if you know how to approach it correctly. That's
really true.
Just fabulous.
Yes, all great stuff, Robert. Thank you so much for coming onto the show and sharing your wonderful tips and stories with our audience. This has been a great evening. And again, the name of the book is Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, Tips and Techniques for insight, creativity, and personal growth. Doesn't get any easier than this. Going inside at night. I can't wait to go to sleep tonight. I'm going to try the hand thing.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'll have to put my hands up in the air.
Yeah.
And if people have questions, they can always check out my website at lucidadvice.com and read about the two books. And also there's a place there where they can submit questions. But thank you so much, Patricia. This has been a blast.
All right. Well,
fabulous for us.
We aim to please, and we're so glad, again, that you came on the show, Robert. And when you do your next book, we hope you come back.
Oh, I will. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, this is terrific. Thank you so much. So, Patricia, another fantastic show. Another great
I just
guest.
in awe. There are so many things that we are privy to and just so unaware.
I know. We got to wake up.
I think that's a good idea.
I think we all need to wake up.
Maybe I'd get more out of it.
Wake up in our dreams, become lucid dreamers, and really take charge in a way that really heals us and helps us. It is possible. So why not do it? And it's free. It doesn't cost us a thing. It's just putting our attention on it.
That's the part that's absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Okay, so we got to start sharing our dreams with each other. We got to practice our hand techniques tonight to see if we can look at our hands in our dreams. Everybody in the audience, give it a try.
Oh, definitely. And we'll chat about it tomorrow.
We will. And please, everybody, get a copy of this great book. It's easy to read, easy to understand, great tips and techniques. Lucid Dreaming, plain and simple. Next week, we have got a ghost story for you. So don't forget to tune in and join us again next Wednesday night. We're going back to the spooky side of life.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
Yes, it is. So keep the fires burning, everybody in the Northeast, and keep the fans going, everybody in the Southwest.
And those that are in the Tucson area, come see us at the fair on Sunday the 15th.
That's right. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. And everybody, have a wonderful night. Good night, Patricia, and I'll see you on the Blue Highway.
Good night, Patricia.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with